what we did early on, I think I'd just gotten to Australia and we just finished casting the kids. And the director and I thought it'd be really fun to have them start a sibling text chain. And so the 4 Delaney kids started a sibling text chain that they became the Delaney Sibs.
Oh, that's cool.
Then I want to say that Annette and Sam got wind of it and wanted to be a part of it. But the kids were like, we got to let mom and dad in. So I think they wound up with 2 text chains, one with mom and dad and one without.
Oh, that's funny.
And they kind of blossomed as a family.
Remember how much you guys loved s'mores when you were little? I was thinking later tonight it would be fun.
Tonight.
Mom,
I thought this was we were just doing daytime.
No, but it's a whole day thing.
We should do it another time.
we're gonna do
it
this.
as its
Day
own
thing.
whole
Yeah,
thing.
it's like this, then tennis, then.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. We'll do it another time.
Hey, did you do those exercises so you wouldn't get blood clots on the plane?
Of course.
Nope.
And free Wi-Fi on the plane was nice. I used the opportunity to do a little sleuthing. Claire, still seeing that guy.
Yeah, I think it's serious. I think it's great. We're divorced, so.
Not yet.
Well, I'm seeing someone.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. It's incredible. She's intelligent and successful and very attractive.
She played tennis?
No, not really.
Claire loved tennis. She was perfect.
She's married to her dad, so.
It's not her fault she's not at this table today.
Okay.
Welcome to Behind the Lens. Today she is a very accomplished playwright and writer, executive producer, showrunner. Her current project is on Peacock. Apples Never Fall, from the Leon Moriarty, a best-selling novel. Please welcome Melanie Marnich. Welcome to the
Hi.
Behind the Lens here.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. So excited to meet you. And very honored to be in this chair.
Vice
Thank
versa.
you.
Well, thank you for coming in. And I have to say, I am not a fan of binging. I don't binge. I like to watch an episode and then talk about it with people and then see it the next week and feel like everybody's doing it. I binged Apples Never Fall.
Oh, thank you for that. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's really well constructed in that way too. But let's talk about it here. This, you've done so many shows. I should mention them. You've worked on Big Love, The Big C, The OA. I mentioned all of the plays. You're a very accomplished playwright, been produced by Manhattan Theater, all of them. Also, you have, this isn't enough, Murder at the End of the World.
Right. Yes.
For which you are nominated for a Writers Guild Award. And that's also this year. You're kind of competing against yourself.
I am indeed. Yeah.
And then The Affair you did, and so many things. But what about Apples Never Fall? Leanne Moriarty, obviously very hot right now, Big Little Lies and all of that. Did you read the book or something said, I got to get this made, or how did it happen?
Yeah. I had a great good fortune of being kind of on a run of shows. I had been working really, really steadily. And I wrapped one, and I remember telling my agent, like, okay, that was great. That was a great run. I need to catch my breath. I need to hear myself think for just a minute. Give me a few weeks. And because she's a great agent, she didn't exactly listen to me. And I had maybe a week or two. And she said, I'm going to send you The Galleys for a book, the Leon Moriarty book, and you're going to read it. It's great. And I was like, okay, go ahead. She sends me The Galleys, and I dove in. And of course, Leon Moriarty's brilliant. And I've been a fan prior, but I started turning the pages on this one, and I was laughing. I was terrified. It had everything right away.
Yeah.
Plus, it had like these really heavy-duty themes. I felt if something can be harrowing, funny, and have these themes, that's in my wheelhouse.
Really interesting too. And it's a tricky thing to adapt because they're so structurally, it's very, I just watch it and I go like, whoa, this is like, if they don't do this just right, you're going to be lost.
Yeah. I think we walked, like, it was like we take it to that line, take it to that line. And it was really trying to honor the energy from that book.
Yeah.
Because the book has what I call just like this incredible page turner energy. It's quite fleet that way. But then so much of it is also internal.
Right.
So like when I first started reading The Galleys, I was like, no problem, this will be easy. And then I got the project, I'm like, oh my God, this is gonna be so hard. 'Cause it's like, and so it's like, how do you take all that richness and say, how do I turn this into to dramatic action, on screen? And then, with that, how do I keep this moving in the same sort of page turnery spirit that the book did?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, thank you for bringing that up. We worked really hard at that, on that in the writer's room, because it was, it was narrative, it was character development, character revelation,
Yeah.
an investigation, 2 timelines, 6 different points of view. It was a lot. So it was like, like this fine braiding all the time. And the question we'd always ask ourselves is like, okay, we broke this episode, we broke this act, whatever it might be. Now, what is the Apple's version of it?
Right.
And that had to have like a sense of surprise, twist, and that sort of fleetness, like making sure we're getting out of a scene, an act, on a bounce, in a sense, like that takes you right into the next thing. Because I don't take audiences' attention for granted. You need to earn it and keep it.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how do you structure something? And then the cast, I would watch any of them, read the phone book, but like they were incredible also with keeping scenes and moments both sort of propulsive and grounded.
Yeah.
So it was like juggling all of that.
No, it's really good. And the structure of it, this, of course, is about a tennis family. They are formerly the tennis club, and Annette Bening, obviously, and Sam Neill, married and very big in the tennis world. And then their 4 now growing kids all sort of grew up in this world in West Palm Beach, and very much in that milieu. And each character here has its own episode. The episodes start, and the name of it is the name of the character that way. Yeah. Which was important to get the characters into this story as much as the mystery of what happens too.
Absolutely. I think what was so fun, and part of what drew me to the book, and then figuring out like how to adapt it, and had to do with, okay, it's this incredible mystery about what happens to this woman.
Yeah. Where did she go?
What happened to her? What happened?
Did he kill her?
Exactly. Dear Sam Neill, like, is he a murderer? But also, that is the Trojan horse. It is the mechanism by which we deliver the deep character stories.
Right.
So it was like, how do you use a procedural element, in a sense, to keep cracking open the characters?
Right.
And that was really fun to do.
Why did you change the setting from the book, which was set in Australia, to West Palm Beach, since you shot in Australia? You're sort of an interesting thing, but...
Yeah, I set it in West Palm, couple reasons. I was like, well, I know West Palm a little bit. I had spent some time there back in my theater life, my playwright life. So I worked there, and I really loved it, and I loved its proximity to Palm Beach. Like, it was really fascinating culturally, geographically. I also love that it's the seat of so much professional tennis training down there in South Florida. It's like, it just makes sense. So it's like, I know that world a bit. I think it's gorgeous. I love it. And it makes sense in terms of the tennis. I know that versus, I think the book is set in Sydney or suburbs of Sydney.
Yeah.
Didn't know that, didn't know that. And it was really important to me to be able to infuse the sense of the place, into the story. It wasn't randomly set in West Palm. I felt like it was important to me that the family lived in West Palm and not Palm.
Oh. Okay.
Like they didn't make it there.
Yeah.
They didn't make it. And they could see it. They could run an errand and see the place they never made it to.
Yeah.
What it can mean to me geographically, socioeconomically, in terms of this family, it will matter.
Yeah.
The place matters in a way that I didn't know how to translate that same thing to, Sydney necessarily. And then, yes, ironically, the call comes in where it's like, great, you're shooting this in the Gold Coast. You're like, okay. And it looks like Florida. It looks like Florida, sort of. We had to do a lot of work to make it so, and thank goodness we had the crews over there and the artists to make that translation, make it look good. And it's beautiful anyway, but it's, that was ironic.
I loved it also for the tennis milieu. My father was a tennis pro.
Oh my God.
And I grew up on tennis courts. He was trying to force me into tennis. And I'm sitting here, so you see it. That didn't work out. But I totally feel the authenticity of this and that world. And, and that is an interesting world, too.
It is. And
examine.
It's, I really wanted it also to live, to the why of West Palm of it, tennis there is part of the culture, and success in tennis is part of the culture in that area, and that Stan, sure, he lost Harry Haddad, but they ran this very successful tennis academy. That would matter. He would be able to carry himself with a certain pride. He would be known to a certain degree. And then, his wife goes missing and he's suspect number one.
Yeah.
That's quite a fall from grace in that world.
I want people to see it, but I also assume that many have. But I thought the way you make it like, oh, he really did. There's a key scene here where you really feel like you're hearing the recording of a fight, and you really feel like he did it.
Yep.
And and then how it all is unraveled is really ingenious and really interesting, I thought.
Oh, thank you for that. Yeah, that was the Stan Delaney needle was a very delicate and fun one to thread. Because it was like he had to be pillar of the community, this great coach, this great father, and also a man.
Right.
I can see that in him.
The little darkness.
Yeah.
There.
And obviously Sam Neill is brilliant. He's a brilliant
he's exceptional.
actor.
To have Sam Neill and Annette Bening. Annette Bening doing her first television anything in 20 years and her first limited series ever is pretty extraordinary.
Yeah.
And boy, does she capture the complexity of Joy, of this woman, wife, mother, business person, wants to run the tennis world for them too. And all of that.
Yeah.
And then suddenly just drops out, disappears.
And I mean, Annette, those two people at the head of the Delaney family, I mean, they also became a family, which was really fun. It's like.
They did, you mean the actors?
Yeah.
Oh,
it
yeah.
was adorable.
How did you make them a family, though?
They're extraordinary humans. So, our first casting was Annette, and then Sam, and then the kids. And what we did early on, I think I'd just gotten to Australia and we just finished casting the kids. And the director and I thought it would be really fun to have them start a sibling text chain. And so the 4 Delaney kids started a sibling text chain that they became the Delaney sibs.
Oh, that's cool.
Then I want to say that Annette and Sam got wind of it and wanted to be a part of it. But the kids were like, we got to let mom and dad in. So I think they wound up with 2 text chains, one with mom and dad and one without.
Oh, that's funny.
And they kind of blossomed as a family. And so I think you see it in the performances that are extraordinary from the start, but as the show goes on, as the episodes go on, they enter each scene even more and more lived in as a family because they are really carrying the history of the family in their bones and the dynamic they created together as actors, as friends, also just makes it come so much more alive.
How did Annette succumb to your inquiry here about doing this? Because she's very careful. She sat in this chair. I've talked to her, and she actually talked a little bit about this show. She said, the strike, it stopped it. We have to go back. We haven't finished it yet. It's got an air date, all this stuff.
Oh, so you talked to her before we wrapped.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I could not have asked for a better partner. She's an incredible artist. She's absolutely brilliant. She brings such integrity to the process. I mean, this woman does her work, you know, and she was all in from the start. We had one call. I think she talked to David Heyman once, and then she and I had
David Heyman's a producer.
On it. He's the one that got the rights to the book, and then she called me, and we just talked it through. You know, I told her how I saw Joy. I told her how I saw the show. I told her how I saw her character's trajectory and what it meant and the themes that I wanted to explore. I think we had the pilot written, and I can't remember if I had any more episodes. We just had a wonderful conversation in which I felt like I could hear her. She asked questions from like inside of Joy, which was really interesting. She really got in her skin and asked these brilliant questions, many of which I had answers to. And some I was like, oh, that's a really interesting question because you're looking at this literally through Joy's eyes.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen it like that. And so the conversation was also very illuminating.
So how do you decide what is deserving of 7 hours of television versus a 2-hour movie where you could squeeze it all in one way or another too, as Hollywood has done for decades on these kinds of best-selling books?
And sometimes you see something, you're like, oh, that could have been shorter, or oh, that should have been longer. You know, it's really hard. It's really hard. This, ironically, I think I started out with a good even number. I was like, oh, it's going to be 8 episodes. And then as I was working on it structurally, I was like, wait a sec. If we had an episode, it was the Delaneys, and let's say each of the that's 7 episodes.
Right.
And 8 like a little air can go out of the tire if I go to 8. But if it's 7, I know what that is.
And how would you do that with the titles? Because you've got the 4 kids,
Yeah.
the 2 parents, and of course we haven't talked about the mystery woman, Savannah,
Yes, yes.
who comes into their lives.
She does, yes. Fox in the hen house, as we say, fox in the hen. So yeah, I mean, it
So
was,
that's 7.
that was sort of a process. And I wish I could say, like, I was like, oh, that's how that should work. That was a process. And then like figuring out which characters, what episode was a process, and what purpose each should, you know, it's like, it wasn't just each person should get an episode, but what do we learn emotionally about that character that then takes us to the next character? Then that take, you know, like very kind of lily padding our way across the 7. So I was really glad to reduce it to 7 from 8, because then it just felt like content's under pressure, and that required a certain alacrity.
Yeah. This is for Peacock,
which
is a relatively new entity. It's obviously NBC, but how are they to work with?
Amazing. So they were so supportive from the start. I feel like they were dream partners. The studio was great. Everybody was great. So it was, Peacock was wonderful. It had great execs, and we just felt, and I felt support from the get.
Yeah. You've done so many. I mentioned Murder at the End of the World, which is the end of the world. In this case, is Iceland.
It's cold.
But another mystery, you know, and a lot of, you know, kind of a classic one in a lot of ways.
With Britton Zoll, who I worked with on the first season of the OA.
Yes,
so they're just a fabulous partners in crime. No pun intended, literally partners in crime.
So what about that one? That one came on before this. But
I mean, I'm thrilled for that show's success as well. I mean, they, you know, I didn't go to Iceland with them. They went and you know, produced the whole thing and shot it, and they did an incredible job. I think I'm really proud of that one too. You know, it's talk about a different world. Yeah.
I know. How did you merge from? You did all these plays. You've written several plays and things like that. And then all of a sudden, you wind up with television. Was that always the plan? You wanted to move into another medium? Because you were very successful as a playwright.
I love theater. I still love theater. You know, it's funny. At a certain point in my playwriting career, I felt like my writing was wanting something slightly different. I don't know how else to explain it. I felt like, I wonder what this would be like in a car driving. You know, like I felt the need to kind of widen my world that way, my storytelling. So I was like, TV, and I hadn't really thought of TV prior to that. I was like, well, TV could be interesting. And I started like, okay, maybe I should figure out how to write a pilot. And then around that time, I switched agents, and I wound up at the time moving to William Morris, and had a brilliant theater agent there who I had talked to about kind of like, I should explore this TV thing. She took the liberty at one point of giving one of my plays to a TV agent in LA. And that TV agent, I don't think I even knew this was happening, gave it to the creators of Big Love. And so I was hired off of a play onto Big Love, and it happened both intentionally and then surprisingly, as things do, you know?
Oh, that's cool.
I was really, you know, very fortunate.
Did you not win a Golden Globe for that or something like that? That was a big show.
I know I was nominated for a Writers. I was nominated for a Writers Guild Award.
That's it. You were nominated the first time.
And so that was an incredible show to come up on, you know. And that was great. But that's how it happened. I was happily in theater and kind of dabbling and trying to figure out if I could be in TV, and then a play got me hired in TV.
So what is it that makes a writer?
What? Ooh, that's hard. Oh my goodness. I mean, I think it's a combination of blind faith, ego, insecurity, discipline, and I don't think I couldn't not. You know, I think there is that always sounds so woo-woo, but I don't think I could not. And then you need to be both a business and an art. And I think that's a real tricky thing, but I think the more you kind of can embrace the fact that they can live together in a wonderful way, it becomes kind of magical. But I think it is. I think we ask ourselves that every day, don't we? Like, what makes a writer? But I think it's like we kind of have to. We kind of have to.
So Apples Never Fall is very successful, as was Big Little Lies. So she wrote the book Big Little Lies, and there you have it. And then they want more. And so then they did another Big Little Lies.
Yes, they did.
Okay. Will we have another Apples Never Fall?
We haven't talked about it. I don't know. I don't know if Savannah will write again. I don't know if the Delaney's, someone else will knock on their door. At this point, it is a limited series.
It is really limited.
It is a fulsome story told in full.
Yeah.
And I think Savannah entered their life at a very special time for this to unfold. You know, they are a regular family, you know,
Right.
in spite of everything. So at this point, it is a completed.
By the way, the actors that plays Savannah.
Oh, so good. Yes.
Georgia
Flood.
Which I thought was a breaking news thing or something, but it's a real person.
A real wonderful
Georgia
person.
Flood.
Georgia Flood. Yeah,
a really terrific actress.
Absolutely. And hard to cast because it had to be someone who could convey an innocence, like both a girl next door innocence.
Yeah.
You know, falling on hard times, you know, when she knocks on that door, that you should feel for her while also being quite scared for Joy and Stan. Yeah. But someone who could convey that sort of innocence and vulnerability and then have that sort of thing emerge in them over the course of time.
Yeah, and be believable throughout it as we learn more about her in very interesting ways. So what is next for you then? After you do all these things this season, you know, you've got these 2 big shows here. Of course, The Affair was a big one for you. And
yep. Great show. I have 2 projects at 2 different studios, and hopefully we can find homes for them. And I'm in love with both of them, so we'll see what happens.
Do you like being a showrunner?
Love it.
Fastest answer you gave me today.
Absolutely love it. It makes you use absolutely all of yourself, you know, all of your skills. I love being a leader. I love solving the problems. I love having a vision that I can sweep other people up in. I love having writers that are smarter than me that can show me things I didn't think of. I really love populating a room with brilliant people from whom I learn. And I love the feeling that something gets bigger and better than you could make it yourself.
Couldn't say it better. Well, thank you so much for joining us on Behind the Lens today. And of course, it's Apples Never Fall. It's on Peacock, and we're going to hear a lot more from Melanie Marnich in your career as it moves along. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for everything. I appreciate it.